All right, you guys, as you can see by the thumbnail, this is going to be something a little bit different. So I'm going to get straight into it because it's late and I want to try to get out another video for you guys, as well as some chapters. I'll get into that at the end of this announcement, this update, follow-up, whatever you want to call it. So check it out. Earlier, I posted a comment in the community section, and it was basically in reference to the last video that we dropped on Magoo from Eastside Longo. I believe the title of the video was Skeletons from the Past or something to that effect. But let me say this. Those of you that watched that video, you know, because you even put this in the comments, those of you that watched the video, you guys obviously know that it took me a total of 13 minutes before I actually got into that story, because I prefaced that video on some things that I knew had the potential of happening. I knew that that video had the potential to create either some fallout or some backlash for a number of reasons. And again, those of you that watched it, I'm sure you guys should be able to figure out what that was. Now, like I told you guys during the story, this wasn't personal information. This was something that was passed on to me through a viewer. If I put out stories about things that, you know, I personally experienced in the past, I let you guys know I was there when this happened. You know, this is firsthand information. I was actually there when it happened. I seen it and heard it with my own eyes. However, a lot of these Mexican mafia stories that I've been telling you guys, these are stories that are being passed on to me through viewers and people that have been tapping in with these stories. So I'm a conduit, you know. Now, when I put these stories out, though, I have a responsibility, a moral responsibility to, you know, vet, to kind of filter what I decide to put out, what not to put out, what's a good look, what's a bad look, because I'm responsible for that. As a content creator, I believe anybody that has a platform, anybody that has a YouTube channel, they're the ones that are responsible for whatever comes out on their channel. And I understand it and I embrace it. And it's something that I've always said and I've stood by. I've stood on that time and time again. Those of you that have been with me for a while, you guys know this. So anyways, you know, again, it was 13 minutes. There was 13 minutes of things that, you know, I wanted to address that I felt were important before I told you guys that story, because I knew that there was a lot of different open-ended things involved in that story. And there were things that could potentially happen, and they did. So let me say this. So, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is my intentions, I didn't have an agenda. I didn't have an ulterior motive when I dropped this video. It was a story that was relayed to me, and, you know, I felt like it was a good story to put out there because there was a clear message in this video. And that message is a potential lifesaver for individuals that get put in situations like this right here. That's why I tell these stories. If this information could help somebody, especially the youngsters, that young generation, like I said in that video yesterday, those of us that have been in the trenches, those of us that have been to prison, the county jails, that have been through that lifestyle, it's on us. We have a responsibility to educate these youngsters, if nothing else, to at least share our experiences with them so that they don't make the same mistakes. Some of this stuff is common sense, but not everybody has common sense. People, you know, some people think that they're that smart. Other people think that they're just that savvy. Those of you that watched that video, surely you had to have come to the conclusion that, man, Magoo sat on this information for 20-something years. I believe it happened in 2001, and, you know, it's already almost 2023. So this happened almost 20 years ago. And this is something he's been shouldering for 20 years. These are skeletons that he had in the closet for 20 years, 2 decades. And it's mind-blowing that it never got leaked out. It's mind-blowing that he had a co-defendant and that he never put it out there. I don't know, maybe they had some type of pact or something. They were kids when this, you know, they caught this case, which doesn't make a difference. That's why I said what I said yesterday. If you're old enough to gangbang, you're out there in the streets, you're pulling triggers, you're stabbing people, then you're old enough to be held accountable for the consequences when you cooperate with law enforcement. That's just the reality of it. Nobody's gonna turn a blind eye to that. If you're out there gangbanging in the streets and you cooperate or you give up some information on somebody, you implicate them, and as a result of that, they somehow, they catch some time, or it adversely affects them somehow. That's going to come back on you. Those are rules that we learn out there in the streets. This isn't prison politics. We learn that from a young age. I learned that when I was a kid, but understandably, things happen, forces push you in different directions. That's another whole story. I don't want to get off track, but it's crazy when you think about it, that all these years Magoo has been able to navigate through, his career and, be out there on the main lines, have been to different prisons, and every time he drives up, I'm sure they screened him, and there was different people there that obviously knew him, and he had a lot of homies. There's a lot of, East Side Long Beach is a big hood. They're all over in the system. But it's crazy that as big as these cases were, Muppet was from the Avenues, but Muppet is kind of tied in to Magoo. It's kind of all tied in. They're two separate cases. One case deals with Gangster from the Avenues. The other case deals with Magoo. But Muppet and Magoo, at the end of the day, all this information being tied in, it's crazy how it never came to light before this small YouTube channel on social media put it out there. Just so you guys know, when this video dropped, Magoo checked in. Hours after the video dropped, between the time I put it out yesterday till today, Magoo checked in. As a result, Magoo checked in as a result of the video. You guys know that everybody in there has cell phones. You guys know that everybody's tied in, they're plugged in. It's a big network. That's the magic of social media. That's the magic of cell phones in prison. Information like that travels fast now in real time. Told you guys back when I was, stuck back there in the SHU program, that whenever we put information like this out there on somebody on the streets, whenever we were filtering somebody, some bad news on somebody out there to the streets, there was a lot of lag time. That information had to go through a visit, or it had to go out in a coded letter, or somebody would end up taking it out when they paroled. We didn't have cell phones. Cell phones weren't a problem back then. Everybody on the main lines didn't have them like they do now. But that's one of the detriments of, everybody having cell phones. When somebody's covers get pulled, or when somebody ends up in bad standings, or when somebody falls out of graces, it's filtered out fast. Literally, one institution could call the next can call the next, and then they got, these female secretaries out there that they're information hubs, and they network all that information out, and then it goes out to the streets, and it just keeps on going. That's what happens. This is a clear example of how social media works. Information is literally right there at your fingertips. What's really mind-boggling is that knowing that Magoo, shouldered this information for 20-something years. I get it, man. When you're young and you're out there and you're doing your thing, and you're with your boys, you catch a case, you make a mistake like that, and your heart's still in it, you want to bury that shit. You want to cover it up, act like it never happened, and keep it pushing. And, you can't unring that bell, though. You can't unring that bell. Once you ring it, it's pretty much, it's done. And I think that this was a situation with Magoo. You know, he probably realized after that he made a mistake. I told you guys he at some point tried to recant his statements and tried to say that he was coerced and saying what he said. But things like that fall on deaf ears within that lifestyle. Mexican Mafia, the NF, Aryan Brotherhood, those type of criminal organizations, it doesn't matter. It's black and white, period. No pun intended. No, it's a dangerous game though. To catch a case and to have statements that are floating around out there, this is something that's documented. It leaves a paper trail. This is not like something that happens in the hood between, your circle out there, your boys, and you guys can either give them a pass and not speak on it, or, you can put it out there. But, when you catch a case and it goes through the courts and they document it, the statements, and they're in the books, the law books, it's a dangerous game. I understand that, when we were 15, 16, things might have happened back then where, your mentality has definitely changed from that time until now. But the bottom line is you're still held accountable for what happened back then. And again, it's just a dangerous game to play. If you guys think that it's not going to come to light, or, look what happened here. This happened 20 something years ago. And with social media, with YouTube channels, with other social media platforms, it came out. This came out. I don't know the intricate details of like why his neighborhood didn't know about this, because like I talked a little bit about this in the video. When somebody's being brought into the Mexican Mafia, or like the Nuestra Familia, I told you guys these two organizations, there's a lot of parallels, a lot of similarities. These two organizations are almost identical in some respects. In some respects, the recruiting process, some of that, the vetting process and screening, and when you bring somebody into an organization like that, usually somebody from your hood knows like your family, or somebody knows somebody. So, they vouch for you. They know your history. They know your juvenile history. They know your gang history out there on the streets. This is somebody that doesn't have no smut on them. This is somebody that has never cooperated with the cops. This is somebody that was solid out there in the hood, that was always solid, in the county jails and juvenile hall, whatever. How this never came out, I don't know. But let me say this too before I cut this short or wrap it up with these last couple of comments. Magoo, this is to you, bro. And this is to your family. I understand that, I'm probably not too popular with you right now, that you probably don't like Paradigm Media News. And I'm sure that, you have some resentment towards this channel for putting this information out there. I understand, bro. But at the same time, I'm gonna tell you like this. When you're able to put this in perspective, you're able to put everything in perspective, and you see, the potential of what could have happened and where your life could possibly headed now, because obviously you made some life-altering choices within the last 48 hours. Let's just say that. And, you're on a different path now. But, bro, this video coming out was probably a good thing. It was probably a good thing. You're not understanding that now. Your family is probably not understanding that now. It's a good thing the Mexican Mafia found out about these past statements like this than for them to find out any other way. Because that if they would have found out any other way, through one of your homies, through a co-defendant, through somebody stumbling across, your case in the legal books. However, if it would have been found out any other way, this video could have possibly saved your life, bro. Straight up. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know you probably don't see that right now. Sooner or later, it would have came out. Everything comes out. It just came out. You were fortunate that it came out this way. again, because you know, what do you think would have happened? Ask yourself, bro, seriously. Be honest with yourself. What do you think would have happened if you would have been out there on the line, and let's just say some legal beagle out there on the line that's deep into the law books would have stumbled across your case and would have seen your statements and would have got at the homies out there on the yard and were like, hey, check this out. Look, did you guys know this? And put you on blast. What do you think would have happened? So, you could be mad at me right now. You could be mad at social media. That's who you should really be mad at, social media. But you're in a better place, bro. You're in a better place. And, at the end of the day, you're still alive and breathing right now. Who knows what could have happened 6 months from now, a year from now. People might have been reading about you in the newspaper. Straight up. I'm not being dramatic either. That's the reality of the situation that you were in. I'm sure when you heard about the video, however it came to light, that you were probably sick, bro. I can understand that. You're probably sick. Here you are out there on the line doing your thing, deep in the mix, and then all of a sudden something like this comes along and you see it. And this is something, again, that you've known about this for all these years. You've been shouldering this and you're like, damn, this shit, it finally came up. This is a fluke right here too. It came up on a fluke on a fucking YouTube channel. You know what I mean? I know you were probably sick, bro. But again, I hope you come to terms with the fact that this could have played out different. It could have played out different and it just could have went all bad. Hopefully you guys watch that video, but hopefully a lot of you guys will understand that this benefited Magoo. And let me just say this. If you're somebody that might have made statements like this in the past when you were younger, I hope you know that you're playing a dangerous game if you're still out there in the mix, because sooner or later, somebody's going to find out. With that being said, with respects to the Mexican Mafia, with respects to the NF, I know for a fact that these organizations would never knowingly pull somebody that has any kind of question in their history. I know how the Mexican Mafia works. I've been around a lot of Mexican Mafia members, whether it was in Corcoran, Pelican Bay, in San Quentin on death row. I know their mentality. I know how they think. And I just know that certain things aren't tolerated. So, the NF has recruited people that have had things come up in their past as well, and they don't know about it until something comes up. The reality is, if your homies don't know about it, or if you don't got a co-defendant and somebody doesn't put it out there, when you come to prison, it's not like somebody from the Mexican Mafia or somebody from the NF is gonna sit down and go through every criminal case that you caught in the past and screen every case, go in the law books and read every case to see if you made any statements. It doesn't work like that. They'll go over the last case that you caught, and they'll look at the charges, they'll look at things like that. But those kind of statements that were made in this case right here, those can actually slip through the cracks unless somebody really sits down and reads the transcripts. And something's got to flag that individual. Something's got to cause somebody to say, hey, we need to read those transcripts. It's not like somebody's just going to do it. You know what I mean? You guys that have done time, you guys that have screened people, I've done it myself, so I know how it works. That's not something that I would typically do, go in and read somebody's transcripts or go deep into their case and pull those reports, unless there was something that flagged that individual, something that told me, like, you need to look at this guy a little bit closer. Otherwise, they're going to look at like the basic stuff that they got, make sure that they don't got no R's on their jacket, make sure that they weren't in protective custody nowhere, that they didn't cooperate. A lot of that stuff is just, the stuff that they can see on police reports or on like the charges that they, were convicted of, but it's not nothing real in depth. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? But even though these criminal organizations take, precautions or safeguards. There's, the vetting and screening processes, even though all this stuff is set in motion, or they have this stuff in place, is it absolute? Of course not. People slip through the cracks. It happens. So this was just one of those situations. But again, if you guys have something in your history, in your past, you made a mistake like that, you said something you shouldn't have said. If you're out there running around on the main lines and you're still trying to play that game, you're playing a dangerous game. You might not get lucky like this. It might not come out like this. This was just, like I said, a fluke. So that's something you guys might want to think about. That's one of the most important messages about this video, I think, is that right there. I told you guys when I was in the Santa Clara County Jail and I was fighting my case that there was actually 3 cats that I was on a tier with that became aware of Twist, one of my co-defendants, making a statement. And they wanted to enter into a pact right there. They liked Twist, and they felt like he got caught up because he was helping us, and that he was a good dude, and they didn't want to see him fall wayside like that. So they wanted to enter into a pact to destroy the police reports and to let it go, to just cover it up. At that time, I was still doing my thing. I was still active, and that's not the way I was educated. So I wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with that. Did that happen in this situation? I don't know. It's just crazy when I think about it. It's crazy that this is something that happened that many years ago. And, this is a big case. Again, it's a big case. Anybody that has read through the gangster case, Javier Marquez from the Avenues, or, any of the East Side Longo, cats out there that are familiar with Muppet and how he died, and there's a lot of them. Muppet, I'm not going to say he was like a legend, but he was somebody that, even though he was killed for cooperating and making statements, he was somebody that a lot of cats liked out there. When I was putting this story together, there was even a tattoo I ran across when I Googled Eastside Long Beach and Muppet. When I Googled that, there was actually a picture of another Eastside Long Beach gang member that was getting a tattoo on the back of his neck that said, "Rest in peace, little Muppet." So he was still embraced, even though, he made those statements. And again, anybody that wants to read this case right here, all you got to do is Google Edmundo Hernandez, and you'll see that it all comes up. That comes up. There's a reference in there to Javier Marquez, gangster from the Avenues, and it's all kind of intertwined together, these 2 cases. That was the whole point of my video that I put out, to show you guys that here, on one hand, you got one individual that was assassinated, executed for making statements, for cooperating. And on the other hand, you had another individual that was made. He was embraced. He went on with his career, as a sureño, became a camarada, and then eventually he would become a made member of the Mexican Mafia. The whole point was to show you guys that here was 2 situations that were identical. Both of them gave statements. One ended up losing his life. The other one ended up, becoming a made member of the Mexican Mafia, and then went on for 20 years without being detected. Anyways, I know this was one of those crazy stories, but I do believe that there is a valuable message in this story, a life-saving message. Anybody that might think that they're just that smart or that slick to continue to slip through the cracks, yeah, you might make it 5 years, you might make it 10 years, you might make it 15, you might even make it 20 years, like Magoo did. But eventually, whether it's a fluke or whether it's somebody that's mad at you, somebody that knows about it, other people had to have known about this. And when it does, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to get out the way and you don't end up paying with your life. But anyways, I hope you guys appreciated this follow-up right here. It's one of those stories. It's one of those things that, there's no winners at the end of this. Magoo still is alive and breathing right now, and that's a good thing for him, and it's a good thing for his family. But it's just one of those realities. It's a reality of this lifestyle. And again, I'm going to continue to tell these kind of stories. I'm going to continue to give you guys the good with the bad with the good. And hopefully, you know, in situations like this right here, it might save somebody else's life. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. We got some more content coming out for you guys. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. We got more content coming. We're going to try to get some stories out to you guys tomorrow. Inner Demon, some other Mexican Mafia stories that we've been working on all day. With that being said, oh, before I go, I got to say this. No llores to all the Cowboy fans. No llores. Come on, man. What are you guys going to say? That was a shellacking. You guys know it. You look bad. Shout out to Texas, so it's all good. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out the way. You guys drop your comments. Drop your comments and let me know what you think about this. What you guys think about this particular situation right here and about, you know, other situations that are similar to this right here, because this does happen. Anyways, with that being said, this your boy B. You guys have a good rest of your night, and I'm out.